Good evening. Today is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, and I am calling this meeting to order of the North Hunterdon-Voorhees Regional High School District Board of Education. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by submission of notice of time, date, and location to the Star-Ledger on December 5th, 2023, and the Hunterdon County Democrat on December 7th, 2023. Notice, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting has been posted at the North Hunterdon High School and Voorhees High School, provided to municipal clerks of Bethlehem Township, California Borough, Town of Clinton, Clinton Township, Franklin Township, Glen Gardner Borough, Hampton Borough, Highbridge Borough, Lebanon Township, Tewksbury Township, and Union Township, as well as other interested parties, and posted on the district website. Fire exits are located in the direction indicated, and if alerted to fire, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the nearest smoke-free exit. At this time, please silence all cell phones. Please rise for the flag salute. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The official election results are attached to the agenda, and we are going to be swearing in Christina Cagno of California Borough and Tewksbury Township, Brendan McIsaac of Clinton Town, Franklin Township, and Glen Gardner Borough, and Cynthia Reyes and Brian Chapman of Clinton Township and Lebanon Borough. So at this time, I'd like to ask Brian Chapman to go first. I will start the statements, and if you could repeat after me. You also have this copy in your folder if that's easy for you to follow, just as a follow along. I, Brian Chapman, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Brian Chapman, do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people.
I, Brian Chapman, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Brian Chapman, do solemnly affirm
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of Board Member of Education,
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina Cagno, would you like to go next? I, Christina Cagno, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Christina Cagno, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
I, Christina Cagno, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Christina Cagno, do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education,
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1,
nor disqualified due to a conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of this office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Welcome aboard. Cynthia?
Should I come around?
Yeah, if you'd like. It's fine. I, Cynthia Reyes, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Cynthia Reyes, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
I, Cynthia Reyes, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Cynthia Reyes, do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education,
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by the law, the office of member of a Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1,
nor disqualified due to a conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1,
nor disqualified due to commission of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties of the office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brendan?
Sure.
I, Brendan McIsaac, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Brendan McIsaac, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Brendan McIsaac, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of the Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, nor disqualified due to a conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to call for nominations from the floor for the office of president. As per policy 0152, I'm just going to explain a little bit of how this process will work. Any board member can place a member's name into nomination. Oh, sorry. Skip right over that. Ms. Cagno. I will-
Here.
Mr. Chapman.
Here.
Mr. Farbanish.
Here.
Ms. Gallo. Here. Ms. Hintz.
Present.
Ms. Cotran.
Here.
Mr. McIsaac.
Here.
Mr. Mueller.
Here.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
Ms. Salino.
Here.
Mr. Stanton.
Here.
And Ms. Beato. Here. Great, we have a quorum. Now I will call for nominations for the office of president. So any board member may place a member's name into nomination, and a second is not required. Elections for each office will be conducted by a roll call vote when the nominations for that office are closed. The candidate receiving the votes of a majority of board members present and constituting a quorum will be elected to the office. In the event that no candidate receives a majority vote of the board members present and constituting a quorum, the procedure, including nominations and subsequent voting, shall be repeated until someone receives a majority vote of the board members present and constituting a quorum. So I would like to call for nominations from the floor.
I'd like to make a nomination for Glenn Farbanish, President of the Board of Education.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none. I will take a roll call vote. If you could just indicate yes or no. Ms. Cagno?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Mr. Farbanish?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Ms. Hintz?
Yes.
Ms. Potran?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Mielek?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Salino?
Yes.
Mr. Spanton?
Yes.
And Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Congratulations.
You're in charge.
That's it. In case you Here, I don't want to put my bag there. Oh. Sorry.
Okay. All right, so we'll now take nominations for the office of Vice President. Repeat what Katie said. Any board member may place a member's name in nomination. A second is not required. Elections for each office will be conducted by roll call vote. When the nominations for the office are closed, the candidate receiving the votes of a majority of board members present and constituting a quorum will be elected to office. In the event no candidate receives a majority of vote of the board members present and constituting a quorum, the procedure, including nominations and subsequent voting, shall be repeated until someone receives a majority vote of those board members present and constituting a quorum.
I'd like to make a motion for Tara Hentz for Vice President of our Board of Education.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any others? So I'll also nominate Jess also, just from the perspective that I think having some continuity of experience in the position, honestly, purely may add some value to hold the position. Obviously, me being new to this position, so I'll also nominate Jess.
Does that require a second, or is it still?
Does not require a second. No. Okay. Roll call.
Okay. When I conduct the roll call, if you could indicate which person you're voting for instead of a yes or no. Ms. Cagno?
Tara Hintz.
Mr. Chapman?
Jess Gatto.
Ms. Gallo?
Tara Hintz.
Ms. Hintz?
Tara Hintz.
Ms. Cotran?
Tara Hintz.
Mr. McIsaac?
Ms. Hintz?
Mr. Mielek?
Ms. Hentz.
Ms. Reyes?
Tara Hintz.
Ms. Salino?
Tara Hintz.
Mr. Spanton?
Tara Hintz.
Ms. Fiata?
I might as well vote for Tara.
And Mr. Farbanish?
Ms. Gatto.
Okay. Congratulations, Tara.
Thank you.
This is.
I've been from the whole year.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item 8, which is to approve items 8.1 and 8.13. Are there any questions on those items?
I do.
Hang on. We need a motion.
Oh, wait,
A
motion
motion.
first. Oh, my apologies. So I need a call for motion and a second to approve items 8.1 to
Motion.
8.13.
Second.
Jess. Now, any questions?
I do. On 8.12, board meeting calendar, I'm just asking if we could re-examine that, adding back July and December. It's only been the last year or so, we just dropped off meetings. It just seems to be that the agenda just thickens. Just discretionary to discuss. And then 8.13, the organizational chart, it's great to have, but it would, in addition to that, can we have a backup page as to who's in that position? Because it's very uncomfortable when you call the office and you don't know who you're talking to, and it's not respectful. And if we could also put that in the drive and is separate for onboarding for new board members and for present board members?
Right.
Can we put all that in there?
We used to have that, and we are going to update that.
That would be great.
Get that in.
Thank you.
Regarding the calendar, I would just suggest that we table that.
And then vote on it later date?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it worthwhile just coming towards October, November? Can we wait that long, or?
It was already voted on in November and
Not to do
passed.
it,
This
right?
is just.
This
Yeah.
is just a
information
suggestion,
for
right.
board members.
Okay.
So
All right.
whether it passes or not, it's.
Because there was
already in
also, we discussed the budget, the meetings
budget
for,
date.
and right now it's set, it's, malleable, so I'm just putting it out there if we.
Okay.
Thank
Just
you.
for some context, what was the reasoning that those meetings were eliminated in prior years?
The budget calendar this year has the budget hearing occurring in the last week of April.
Okay. And then as far as the rest of the items, do you typically do those twice a year, once coming into the school year and at the reorg?
Just a reorg for the.
Just the reorg? Okay.
But again, there's a chance that April might come back on, depending
Right.
on how, okay, right, just wanted to clarify.
But July and December, we haven't had in probably the last year or
Right.
so. And I first got on, they didn't have it, I had made a suggestion to add them. It's just for fluidity, and it's helpful when you are a new board member your first year. But also in December, we have always outgoing board members, and we never all get to connect and say goodbye. And it's usually in November, and that's just, I think it's uncomfortable for that board member, those board members. So I'd like to be able to recognize them at that December meeting. Thank you.
So do you want to table that?
We already voted on it. I'm just asking a suggestion as moving forward. Can we look at that?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you'll be looking at adding July and December and what the reasoning was for dropping them off, but just asking for consideration. Thank you.
I've noticed in other districts too that July is common, but December's not. I don't know if that helps anything, but.
The reason we dropped off December was because we usually have that meeting right before the Christmas break, and the day we get back, we have this meeting. So typically, there's not anything that occurs in December that is dire. So that's why December fell off the calendar.
My only concern with the July one is that a lot of people end up on vacation. And so what would the group look like, and could we get a quorum if we needed a quorum? August is at least, the kids in the district start school like a week later, so we are technically should be back. So we did add one for July. I don't know if we want to consider adding a remote connection so we can ensure that we have the necessary people to vote. Just a thought.
Actually, I just had a question, 8.3, not saying switch banks. Citizens hold the majority of our funds, right? I think are they still competitive in their rates, interest rates that we may have
They
seen?
have been, and we
Okay.
have a great governmental banking.
Okay. Any other questions? So this is a roll call vote for 8.1 to 8.13 to approve them?
Ms. Cagnon?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Ms. Hibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Cotran?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Mulek?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Salino?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Ms. Beato?
Yes.
And Mr. Purbanovich?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
So Mr. Lee will now give us a presentation on School Ethics Act and Code of Ethics for school board members.
Can you share my thoughts?
I will share too.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm sure the only thing that sustained us all through the dark and rainy parts of December was the thought that we'd come back to a PowerPoint presentation on school ethics. So I'm glad to deliver. First thing to keep in mind is that as board members, you still have to go through the required training through school boards. So this is really more of the discussion of the code of ethics that's required by the state. What is the board required to do? As I said, we have to discuss the School Ethics Act and the Code of Ethics for a school board member at a regularly scheduled public meeting. We have to adopt policies and document that every board member has received and read the Code of Ethics. This is actually set forth in board policy as well. So, we do this at a regularly scheduled meeting. I start this off by referencing the OPMA, and that is the statute that governs board meetings. That is the statute that makes your actions legal. So you're required to have a public meeting that's open to the public so that the public can see the board at work. This is the Senator Byron M. Baer Open and Public Meeting Act, the OPMA. Prior to becoming a senator, Senator Byron was renowned for being the special effects director on a movie that we've all seen called The Brain That Wouldn't Die. So those are his two great contributions to the world, the OPMA and The Brain That Wouldn't Die. So what does the board do? Well, you're the governing body of the school district. You're charged with making high-level policy-making decisions. Only as an entity can you act. That means that individual board members, it's only when you come together in one of these meetings that the entity can act. You have limited decision-making authority. Your role is to be oversight, the big picture, rather than administering the day-to-day details of the district. That is what you have your administrators and your professionals for. Board members are required to refrain from any actions that would cause a conflict of ethics. And to that end, you're governed by the Code of Ethics, as well as there's a statute that talks about the prohibited acts, the conflicts of interest for board members. So this is the School Ethics Act, for those of you who want to read along at home. It's NJSA 18A 12-21, and the purpose of it was so that the public can be assured that the Board of Education and your administrators hold the respect and confidence of the people, and that you can avoid conduct which is a violation of your public trust and which creates or might create a justifiable impression among the public that such trust is being violated. To that end, that's why they created that Code of Ethics to guide your actions. So, the first thing is, and I kind of break this up into sort of like everything I learned in kindergarten. That was a book that came out 5-10 years ago. So the first one is follow the rules. I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. So that is follow the rules. And I've been told in no uncertain terms that I am limited to 10 minutes, so I will not go through all of the cases in detail. But if you go to the School Ethics Commission's website,
You can find the reported decisions of the School Ethics Commission, as well as advisory opinions that are often helpful to board members. The second part of the Code of Ethics is that what I call the kids come first. I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children, and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. Again, I will not bore you with going through the individual cases, but they are available. Third is to look at the big picture. I kind of referenced this before. Your job is not to administer the everyday nitty-gritty of the operations of the district, but look to the oversight, the policies, the big picture of the school district. To that end, I will confine my board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. No micromanaging, which is just kind of a reiteration of the prior one, which is I will carry out my responsibility not to administer to the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they're well run. So it's important to note that it's together with my fellow board members. Again, as I said, board members individually don't have any authority or power, but when you come together in a public meeting such as tonight, that is when the board can act. So it is the board as a whole that acts. I can't promise you that. I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private actions that may compromise the board. No special interest or personal gain. This one really didn't have a snappy title. I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups, or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends. And so there is actually a provision built into this statutes and regulations that talk about if a ethics complaint was brought, what the evidentiary standard, or what they're looking to approve. And so what they would look to see if a board member had violated this particular portion of the Code of Ethics was if you took an action on behalf of or at the request of a special interest group, or persons who are organized and voluntarily united in opinion who adhere to a particular political party or cause of action, or use of the school in order to acquire some benefit, and it could be financial, it could be something else intangible for their own benefit, for a member of your family's benefit, or for friends. Now, this one I will go into some of the cases that talk about this. So there are decisions that talk about how board members can endorse candidates for an election as long as you are wearing your personal hat. And so what you basically have to do is make it very explicitly clear that if I am endorsing this person, it is not as my role as a board member, because that suggests to the public that, oh, the board is endorsing this person, but you have to make it very clear that I'm only acting in my personal capacity. The other issue that's going to come up is the conflicts of interest that might occur, because as members of the community, you may have business interest or financial interest or personal interests that intersect with the district, and you have to be very careful to make sure that those interests don't run into conflict with your duty to act on behalf of the entire district as a whole. I can keep a secret. I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its schools. And so there were some advisory opinions that talked about this. This is one that was a board member who also was a freelance reporter, a freelance journalist. They said that you can keep your day job as a journalist, but you have to be careful that you don't report on board issues, and that certainly you don't disclose in your job as a journalist issues and information that you would have only learned because of your privileged role as a board member. So that would be confidential information. For instance, when we go into executive session and things like that, that obviously should not be disclosed to the public. Listen to your superintendent's recommendations. I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer. And the evidence of a violation of this part of the Code of Ethics is that if the board member acts on a personnel matter without the recommendation of the superintendent. And so again, this is, this kind of ties back in with your role as big picture oversight, and this is what you have your professionals and your administrators for. This is their job to make those recommendations to you that I think so-and-so is best suited for this position. A little dated here, but thank you for your support. And so this is the provision that requires you to, I will support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties. What does this mean? Well, for instance, there was a decision where a board member was found to have violated the Code of Ethics when they sent a letter to the superintendent, when copied the State Board of Education and the Executive County Superintendent, accusing the superintendent of allowing employees to violate board policy. Another one also violated the code when they sent an email to the superintendent asking that the superintendent provide an accounting of their personal leave. And then this one is a little more political, I guess, is a board president violated the code by posting a picture of the superintendent on Facebook with the comment, "Now if we could only do something about our local terrorists that destroy dreams and earn their futures." That was found to be a violation of this code of ethics because they were not supporting district personnel. Use proper channels. I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer. Will act on the complaints at a public meeting only after a failure of an administrative solution. And so the evidence of a violation of this section of the code could be if you act or you try to resolve a complaint, or you conduct your own investigation or inquiry before you refer the complaint to the superintendent or another appropriate administrator, and this is done prior to having gone to your superintendent, to your administrators to address this problem. So in other words, if a member of the public approaches you and says, "I have a problem, I really hate the fish sticks, my kid hates fish sticks, we got to take fish sticks off the lunch menu," it's not your role as board members to go into the cafeteria and say, "We're taking all the fish sticks out." Your role is to go to the superintendent, and I'm sure that your superintendent would be thrilled to address that issue for you, to remove the offending fish sticks from the lunch menu. So, as I said, there are a number of conflicts of interest. I think I'm running up on my 10 minutes, but there are a number of conflicts. Basically, the key interests are if you have financial interests, if you have family members that are either employed or related to the district, participation in unions, things that might create an impression to the public that maybe your vote was affected by this relationship. Those are the things that you should be staying away from. There's a whole host of them, and then there are some not conflicts. So as a board member, that doesn't mean that you can't vote for, if you have kids in the district, and the example they gave of this was a district where board members voted in favor of creating a gifted and talented program, and that their kids would actually be part of that gifted and talented program. And so the concern was, am I acting in a conflict of interest? Does it appear I'm benefiting myself? And the Ethics Commission said, you can vote for that, as long as everyone in the district is benefiting from that. Your kid is part of the district. So as long as everyone benefits from that decision, you're allowed to do that. That's not necessarily a conflict of interest. So relatives in district is a big one. There's a chart that came out about 2 years ago. Keep building in that chart that tells you if the family member or friend is this relationship to you, this is what you must stay away from. But the big ones are basically if you have a conflict, you can't, not only is it discussion, not only can you not vote on that issue that creates a conflict of interest for you, but really you shouldn't be part of the discussion in an issue that you're conflicted on. Because the idea is that even though you're not voting, you might be influencing other board members in terms of this, So you really should just recuse yourself, not only from the vote, but any discussion or questions about that issue. Just maintain that complete distance from that conflicted issue. This conflict goes to even if there is a temporary, like a substitute teacher who's not a permanent employee of the district, that could create a conflict of interest as well, because again, you might be discussing an issue that affects the employment of a family member to become perhaps a long-term substitute or a permanent member of the district. So again, staying away from those conflicts of interest is a key issue. And that is one of the big areas. These conflicts of interest are oftentimes the big issues that the School Ethics Commission focuses on. Volunteering. So, as community members, we wear a lot of hats. We're sitting on the Board of Education. And so there have been advisory opinions that have asked about this. Hey, prior to becoming a board member, I volunteered for the school play. I was building sets for the school. And the Ethics Commission has said, look, you're doing enough. As a board member, you should be keeping that hat on only. The problem is that when you go into these volunteer positions, you are either perhaps giving orders to district personnel or taking orders from district personnel. And so that is the blurring of lines where, you might be influencing people because they're like, oh, they're a board member, we have to do what they say. Again, the position of the Ethics Commission is stay in your lane as the board. We appreciate your efforts, but you're doing enough as board members. You don't have to do the other stuff as a volunteer. Again, with ethics, everything can be a gray area. So while there are some advisory opinions that talk about you shouldn't be volunteering for the school play, there are other areas where it's possible that you can volunteer and not be in conflict. For instance, the Ethics Commission will look to the degree of involvement that your board member will have with the staff and students, as well as what degree, if any, you might have to either give or receive orders from district personnel. The sort of rule of thumb is that if you're going to be in a supervisory position, you're going to be giving orders to district personnel, that more than likely will violate the code of conduct and be a conflict of interest. Doctrine of necessity. So the doctrine of necessity, you may have heard that term. And so what happens if everyone on your board or the vast majority of people on your board are conflicted? Well, the doctrine of necessity is a principle that you can invoke because the work of the district still has to be done. It does require that you pass a resolution allowing or invoking the doctrine of necessity. You have to explain the reasons why you have to invoke the doctrine of necessity, and you have to go through a discussion of here's what the conflicts are. So in those very limited circumstances, even the conflicted members might be able to vote on that issue. But the advice that they give you is to consult with the board attorney first. So now that we've gone through, you should have a sheet of paper that tells you, I've read and the code of conflict discussed, sign that acknowledgement and give it to your board secretary. And I'm sorry to say that the presentation is over. We could go for another half hour if you want to go through all the cases and exhaust them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, because I do believe in ethics and 10 minutes aside, does anybody have questions for Andrew while he's here? In all seriousness.
Yes.
What can the ethics committee?
What can they do to you?
What can they do to you?
Well,
Glenn, would you like to pass these
I
forward?
don't like where that question is going, but what they can do is they can reprimand, they can censure you. So those are the lower levels. They can actually suspend you from the board, and ultimately they could even remove you from
So I would say,
I have a question
oh, I'm sorry.
as well.
Yep.
So the volunteering,
Yeah.
that is strictly in the school district, or would that be a Boy Scout situation as well? Because I'm a merit badge counselor, is that something we...
So I'm going to give you the answer that my father-in-law that started working in the Texas oil fields when he was 15 used to say you lawyers and your weasel words? And the answer is maybe. It might depend on the interaction between Boy Scouts and the district. Typically what it's meant to do is cover volunteering within the district.
Right.
But there are other potentials where, for instance, sometimes like when I was involved in Cub Scouts, I know that we used to use the school gymnasium for like pine training, right? As a board member, if you were involved with the Boy Scouts and the Boy Scouts had asked for permission to use the school auditorium for something, that might be a conflict of interest because you might be perceived by the public as voting in favor of allowing the Boy Scouts to use the auditorium because you're also a volunteer for the Boy Scouts. So I would tell you in that situation, it's probably err on the side of caution and recuse yourself from that issue.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So I found volunteering to be the one that has caused me some questions. I would say, if in doubt, you're welcome to email me or certainly Jeff, right? If we can't answer, we'll ask Andrew. So I would say just err on the caution of ask rather than just simply saying no or honestly saying yes. So. Any other questions? Thanks, Andrew. Okay, we'll now move on to public comment. So during this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the school board with questions or comments. The public is requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state their name, municipality of residence, group affiliation if applicable, and direct their comments to the school board president. While all comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate, school board members will not respond to the speakers at the time of their appearance. The public comment period will be a maximum of 30 minutes in length unless there's unusual circumstances. Those appearing will be allocated 3 minutes to speak and no one will be permitted one more time. No one will be permitted to speak twice until those that have not yet had an opportunity to speak have had a turn. If only I could speak tonight, that'd be great. Does anybody have public comment? Okay, none? Okay, then moving on. Okay, so we need to form new committees. So I actually thought last year we had an open, there was a portal that everyone
Survey.
went through.
A survey,
A
yeah.
survey,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can update that.
Is that how you
Yeah,
wanna
if
do it?
wanna
Okay.
that
With
again.
interest,
Yep,
yeah.
So when,
I can send it to you tomorrow. Just take a look at it.
right, so I think last year we each got the portal, right? We each put in our 3, right? So put in 3 choices, I think that was last year, right?
Yeah.
Your first in
Yeah,
order of
first
preference. And including will also be negotiations. Will that be on there also, Maren?
I can add that.
Yeah, let's add that also. So this year's contract negotiations.
Your county
committee.
rep, but that's on there, the county
The county
rep.
County rep.
Yes, delegates
And
to
delegates.
state, school board, and county.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's usually on that survey.
Yeah,
We
it's on
just-
there also, right?
Yeah, I'll have them all listed.
Yeah, because we
Yep.
will need to know that. Like,
Right.
it's actually going to happen, will it happen before? No, the delegate meeting.
When is the
isn't.
next one?
No, next one's not till May.
When do we meet, the 25th?
Yeah,
23rd.
but we'll have to have committee
23rd, so
meetings.
then it's fine.
Yes, we're
Delegate
fine,
meeting's
right?
the
Yeah.
25th.
So how much time, can we do it by Friday? Because our next meeting's the 23rd, that means committee meetings are the week of in 2 weeks. So you guys can try to get your answers in by Friday? We can pick it by Monday or Tuesday? Okay.
Glenn, also, to avoid some of the similar issues that we had last year, to the extent that we're going to continue with the DEI ad hoc committee, which I do think that there's still some work to be done in follow-up, could we add that to the list of committee opportunities for people too?
So is that something to vote on, or is that,
That's up to you.
I don't know, what's everyone's feeling on adding a committee for this?
It was an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, it was an
That's
ad
right.
hoc.
I think
And
the
Beth and I were
general
both
feeling
on
is
as
something
the
that
board
you-
members.
Yeah.
Not
And
necessarily need
Nicole.
another committee to keep
Yeah.
roving the
And you were-
committee. It's
so-
just
so
something
we're
that I
still
think you agreed in
all four
committees
still on here, so.
to give updates via the district
Okay.
administratively. That's what was stated in the last.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're
October's
going into
meeting.
oversight, which maybe that's not,
Okay.
right? We made recommendations.
Right, I think it was just, we wanted to find out also what work was being done. So we'll have an update on that for the January meeting, the January 23rd meeting. I mean, we can always, hold off on it or add something, maybe to the the community services, the community.
Community relations and
Yeah,
student
community
activities,
relations,
because that was heavy
Yeah.
That was where
part of
the
it,
Yeah,
was a lot of it
came
was,
in,
yeah,
Yeah.
student
where ideas were
activity.
made.
So maybe we make it just a bullet point there.
Or we can make that committee have a point and discuss it each month, and
Yeah.
anything going on related to DEI
Okay,
could be part of that
Might be more
committee,
effective.
yeah.
okay. Great.
Okay.
Just on that, just out of curiosity, did the committee have a specific charge that it has since completed and that would signal sort of the end of that work?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we met for 6 or 7 months to look at what the district was doing regarding DEI, what activities had been occurring, and then suggestions for new actions on the part of the district.
And so really the only follow-up was to receive quarterly updates from the principals. So we've received the first quarter's information from the principals, and so that'll be reported out in January.
So that's sort of a standing action then?
Yeah,
as a
at least
result
for
of that?
at least until the summer break, probably.
Anything else? Okay, so call for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Jess,
It's quick.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And we are adjourned.
Happy 2024.
Yes.
Or 2023.
Tell